Be the difference, never again. Learning about those who risk their lives to save others and to inspire people to take action. Each person, every action, large or small, makes a difference. This is our mission statement. The goal is to do just that, create awareness and encourage action. Students this past May had the opportunity to learn about a soldier, an individual that is buried at the World War II Florence American Cemetery. The Italian Prime Minister, Matteo Renzi, and the U.S. Ambassador to Italy spoke at the commemoration. A wreath from Harding and the Be the Difference program was shared to honor the men and women that sacrificed their lives for our country in World War II. Students wrote and shared this experience, and a portion of this has been prepared.
My past experience of Memorial Day has been one that's primarily filled with activities consisting, but not limited to barbecuing, swimming, hanging out with friends and family, and celebrating our country. Don't get me wrong, we do acknowledge the men and women who gave their lives for us, but that hasn't ever really been our main focus. Today at the Florence American Cemetery, that was a different story. Emphasis was placed directly on those soldiers who stood in harm's way for us, and it made it feel all the more real as we were sitting amongst the graves and memorials of those who had lost lives. It was incredible to be in the presence of both Italian and American people and feel like one body. We all shared something in common despite any language barrier that might have previously hindered us. We all love and appreciate those who selflessly fought for our lives and joined together to celebrate them. As the ceremony began to come to an end and the patriotism welled up inside me, I couldn't help but think of those lyrics. Because there is no doubt I love this land, God bless the USA. This was my first Memorial Day spent out of the United States, and I felt more pride and gratitude for the people that fought for me more than I had ever have before. What an incredible experience. It was a somber moment whenever I laid my flowers down by Fred Reynolds' grave. It was weird to actually see his name on the gravestone and see his state of Texas on the gravestone as well. Even though I'm in Italy, Texas is something that is so close to home, it makes it all feel a little more real. This event today definitely made me think more about what it truly means to celebrate Memorial Day. The true purpose of Memorial Day came to light today. Honor, respect, and love for the soldiers who gave their lives for a higher cause than their own. As I stood next to our Be the Difference wreath, I began to comprehend the gravity of what I was witnessing. Although Memorial Day is not always remembered for the right reasons, today we did for the right ones. To give these heroes honor in the highest regard for their willingness and courage to do what I am afraid to do. I am thankful I was given the chance to represent Be the Difference. God bless our remembrance today and the families in which we're impacted.
This fall, Huff students had the opportunity to hear stories shared by several Italians that lived during World War II, or that have been honoring a fallen American at the Florence American Cemetery. This semester, Dr. Hopper visited Huff after visiting Normandy Beach in northern France. He taught the students a brief World War II history leading up to D-Day and shared the experience he had with the Hughes students at Normandy Beach and at the World War II cemetery there. The same day, Marco Tufani spoke to the students. 50 years ago, when Marco was 14 years old, he visited the graves at the Florence Cemetery. A Vista magazine article said this about Marco. He walked past rows of graves, 4,402, each honoring a fallen World War II soldier at the Florence American Cemetery. The number of pristine white crosses and Judaic stars profoundly affected Marco. With the American flag waving high above the trees, he gravitated towards one cross in particular, marking the final resting place of Charles Spiegel. This grave would become a sacred place for Tufani, where he would meditate on Spiegel's heroism, which became a guiding force in his life. The soldier, whose family is from Hillside, New Jersey, was 22 years old when he died in a crash while flying for the 15th Airborne of the Army Air Corps. This semester, the Huff group visited the cemetery. At the cemetery, we met Carla Fioravanti, Massimo Bambagiotti, and Fiorenzo Iacono. The students came prepared, having already done some research on an individual soldier buried at the cemetery. Fiorenzo gave the student folders with more information about the soldier they had chosen. They spent some time reading this information. Massimo Bambagiotti shared his information about Sergeant Lang and the heroic sacrifice he made when fighting in Italy. He is buried at the Florence Cemetery. Later, Fiorenzo shared a story about 4 brothers that fought in World War II, of which only one survived. Carla Fioravanti lived in Florence during World War II. She shared some things that she remembered from her childhood. Among them, the lack of food, the bombardments, the arrival of the Allied forces, and the post-war reconstruction. Carla's home, which was near one of the Florence train stations, was bombed during the Allied raid. The students walked to the grave of the individual they chose. Each of them laid a flower at the grave and had a moment of silence. Huff students have been visiting the Florence Memorial Cemetery since the beginning of Huff in 1980. It is always very sobering, a time to reflect, a time to be thankful, and a time to remember the sacrifices soldiers made during World War II, and also the sacrifices that soldiers continue to make for the freedoms we enjoy today. Since we started the Be the Difference program, we have been focusing our attention on an individual. Several Huff students this fall wanted to share their impression.
The students here at the Villa went to a cemetery here in Florence, and before we went, we each did a little bit of research about a man who was killed in World War II and was buried here in Italy. So I learned about a man named Graham H. Jenkins, and he lived in Pennsylvania growing up, and he finished high school there, went to college at Lincoln University. He was very popular. He was in a fraternity, and then he had to go overseas to Italy to fight in World War II. And he was killed on December 18th, 1944. What happened is he was leading his troop, and they were heavily outnumbered by the Germans, 70 to 400. And about 50% of his men were killed, and he was commanded to leave where they were. But he decided instead to stay with those guys and talk with them and just spend some time encouraging them. So they tried to get away under a smoke bomb as a distraction, but only one person out of the 70 actually survived.
Ralph Barnes, he was a war correspondent, and he published papers that the Nazis didn't want to be publicized.
Rebecca L. George was a second lieutenant in World War II. She was killed when her plane malfunctioned and went down with 24 other people.
John J. Leone was a technician 5th class in the U.S. Army. He was from New York, and he died on March 23, 1944 when he was captured. He received the Silver Star and the Purple Heart.
The soldier I got to honor was Richard C. Reed, and he was in the 10th Mountain Division, and he died on April 16th of 1945. And we actually don't know that much about him, but about 3 months ago, a letter was left on his grave that reads, "Dearest Richard, all my love, all my life. You were there on my 18th birthday so long ago. On July 26th, I will be 93 years old. Wow. Together, we were a super special twosome. My darling, I will be seeing you again soon. All my love, all my life, sweetheart."